You know, for decades, one of the most important stories of World War II was a total secret. It's an incredible story, really, about a hidden factory, an unbreakable code, and the forgotten heroes who literally changed the course of history. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the amazing true story of the women of Bletchley Park.
Okay, so let me ask you something. When you think about who broke the Nazi codes during World War II, what's the first image that pops into your head? For most of us, it's a very specific picture.
Yeah, the story we all kind of know, right? The one from the movies. It's usually a few brilliant, eccentric male professors, someone like Alan Turing, pacing around the lawns of some grand estate, cracking the code all by themselves. It's a great image, for sure, but it's a myth, and it hides a much, much bigger truth.
The truth really boils down to this one number. At its peak, Bletchley Park, the top secret hub for British code breaking, had nearly 10,000 people working there. And get this, 75% of them were women.
I mean, that just completely flips the script, doesn't it? Bletchley Park wasn't some quiet little club for professors. No way. It was a massive, industrial-scale intelligence factory running 24/7, and it was powered almost entirely by thousands of women.
You know, Winston Churchill actually had this famous kind of secret phrase for them. He called them the geese that laid the golden eggs and never cackled. They produced these golden eggs, this unbelievable intelligence that helped win the war, but they were sworn to absolute secrecies, so for more than 30 years they never cackled.
Okay, so what was this secret factory? And what was this just monumental problem they were all trying to solve? Well, it all started with a machine that was supposed to be unbreakable.
The heart of the problem was this thing right here, the Enigma. Now, it might look like a fancy typewriter, but its incredibly complex system of scrambling rotors could turn any message into what the German High Command thought was a completely unbreakable code. And the worst part? The settings changed every single day, creating a brand new puzzle to solve from scratch.
Now, here's a common misconception. A lot of people think the British just figured this all out from scratch. But that's not the whole story. Not even close. The real key to unlocking Enigma actually came from Poland. Years before the war even started, these brilliant Polish mathematicians were the first to crack it. And just weeks before the invasion of Poland, they shared everything they knew with the British. This incredible gift gave Bletchley Park the head start it absolutely had to have.
So, armed with that incredible head start, Bletchley Park just exploded. They recruited an army of women. But that 75% number doesn't really tell the full story. I mean, what were these thousands of women actually doing day in and day out?
Well, their jobs were all over the map. Women were recruited from literally everywhere, top universities, the military branches like the Wrens, and the civil service. They became everything from the high-level cryptanalysts, the actual code breakers themselves, to thousands of machine operators, data managers, and intercept operators. It was this massive, complex pyramid of talent.
So you had the factory floor, right? This is where you'd find members of the Women's Royal Naval Service, the Wrens, as they were called. They operated the Bombe machines. These were giant, noisy, clattering electromechanical devices that tested thousands of possible Enigma settings around the clock. It was absolutely grueling work, and people like Jean Valentine were the true beating heart of the whole operation. The famous codebreakers couldn't do a thing until these women found them a way in.
But it gets even more amazing. To crack an even tougher code, Bletchley built Colossus, the world's very first programmable electronic computer. And who operated it? Women. People like Joanna Chorley were quite literally the world's first computer operators. They were true pioneers of the digital age, but because of the intense secrecy, their story was just erased from history.
And then, beyond the giant machines, there was this other job. It might sound a bit clerical, but honestly, it was the nervous system of the entire operation. A massive card indexing system run almost entirely by women that worked like a giant human-powered search engine. They connected millions of enemy messages, and this meticulous work is what allowed the codebreakers to spot the tiny patterns they needed to break the codes.
Okay, so you have all this incredible work, from the computers to the card files. What did it all add up to? What were these golden eggs that Churchill was talking about? Well, they were moments that completely changed the direction of the entire war.
Let's start with Mavis Batey. She was just 19 years old, a German student who became a codebreaker. She figured out the Italian Navy's Enigma code, which revealed their entire battle plan for a surprise attack. Armed with that intel, the Royal Navy set a trap and won a huge victory at the Battle of Cape Monoton. The Italian fleet was so crippled it never seriously challenged them again.
All right, next up, the Battle of the Atlantic. This was desperate. German U-boats hunting in these terrifying wolf packs were sinking Allied supply ships at a catastrophic rate. They were threatening to literally starve Britain out of the war. And for a while, their new 4-rotor Enigma code left Bletchley Park completely in the dark. And the person who was absolutely central to turning that tide? A brilliant mathematician named Joan Clarke. She worked right alongside Alan Turing in HUD-8 and was one of the key minds who finally broke that U-boat shark cipher. Her work meant that suddenly the Allies could see exactly where the wolf packs were hiding.
And the result? It was immediate. And for the U-boats, it was absolutely devastating. This chart shows what happened in Black May of 1943, right after they broke the code. U-boat losses spiked so dramatically that Germany had to pull most of them out of the Atlantic. This victory secured the supply lines to Britain, and really, it made the D-Day invasion possible.
Their work was also critical for D-Day itself. The Allies put together this massive deception plan to trick the Germans into thinking the invasion would be at Pas de Calais, not Normandy. But how did they know the trick was actually working? Well, because Mavis Batey and another codebreaker, Margaret Rock, had already broken the German intelligence code. This created this amazing secret feedback loop where the Allies could read German messages confirming they'd totally fallen for the fake invasion plan.
I mean, these victories saved countless lives. They almost certainly shortened the war. But for the women who made it all happen, the end of the war wasn't the end. It was the start of something else, a long, heavy silence.
See, after the war, every single person who worked there had to sign the Official Secrets Act, promising to stay silent forever. And for 30 long years, they kept that promise. Their own families never knew what their mothers or daughters actually did during the war. It wasn't until 1974, when a book called The Ultra Secret was published, that the story finally came out and just stunned the world. And that silence, it came at a huge cost, especially for the women. I mean, think about it. You can't exactly put top secret Nazi codebreaker or pioneering computer operator on your resume in 1946. Their incredible, world-changing skills just became invisible. And this secrecy made it easier to push women back into more traditional domestic roles after the war. And it totally erased their foundational work from the history of computing.
So you see, the women of Bletchley Park weren't just helping out. They weren't a footnote to the story of how the Allies won World War II. They were its main text. From the factory floor to the most elite analytical rooms, they were the engine that drove the entire Allied intelligence machine.
And their story, now that it's out of the shadows, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you ask, how many other heroes, how many other groundbreaking stories does history still hide in silence?